Welcome to a Gen Z Perspective episode 1. Before we get into it, I wanted to take a minute to explain why myself, Nico, and my two co-hosts, Troy and Seth, decided to create this podcast. Partly was for the fun, challenge, and experience of it, but also because we wanted to create something that was solidified in stone, so to say, so that we have something to always look back on as if a window into the past on who we were and where we came from. Most importantly, we created this podcast to give a voice and space to our generation, a generation of extremely intelligent young men and women who were born into the most forward-thinking and acceptive era of all time. We've been affected differently than other generations by the global pandemic that swept through the globe. Each and every one of us had dreams, goals, and ambitions, whether it being to travel the world, go to university, or experience life with a new level of freedom never before obtained. We were robbed of this critical part of our lives. One in which we discover who we are, what we like, and what type of impact we want to leave behind us. An opportunity that every generation before, and most likely after, will have a chance to experience. We designed this podcast for anyone and would love to have any individual with a unique perspective or viewpoint on the world on as a guest. Episode 1 was a bit of a pilot as we dive into the world of mushrooms and psilocybin, taking a look at how they affect your mind and bring you back to that young state of childhood curiosity and fascination with the world we live in, as well as looking into the philosophy of living in the now and realizing that life is more about the journey than just the destination. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I know, Seth, you have not done mushrooms. You're willing to try them, but not yet. You want to be ready, which is good. It's definitely one of those drugs that you want to be like mentally prepared to do. I would say though, I personally back mushrooms over weed as a drug to do. I think it's healthier. And I have proved the benefits.
Man, weed's not a drug, man. That's a medicine, man.
Well, that's also the thing. Mushrooms are medicine.
Mushrooms are serious medicine.
I mean, if it's natural, is it good?
Yes.
Well,
no. I mean,
it can be severely damaging.
Can be severely
that
damaging.
is also if you have a ridiculous high amount, anything over 4 grams, which I haven't even done.
Yeah.
Or you're in a dark space.
Mental health.
Dark space can actually be good.
Sometimes, but lots of people that I've heard talk about drugs have said if you're in like a really depressed or like really not help.
You meant like mentally dark space.
Yeah, no, I don't mean like a dark room.
I thought you meant a dark room.
He's not wrong though. A dark room, you see so much shit for some reason.
When I was a kid, I went caving and we went to this just completely dark room in the middle of nowhere.
And I licked a stalagmite, and man,
it was tasty. It started seeing stuff because it was completely pitch black, and it was like opening my eyes or closing my eyes was the exact same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I started seeing weird shapes in the walls, and I don't know, it was really weird.
Lack of vision makes you see vision.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, maybe
your brain tries to make things up.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe that was me being on shrooms when I was a kid.
But that's what mushrooms do, though. You don't see anything, you can't see anything, and your mind. You almost think you imagine things, and then it becomes colorful, and you see different visions while you're sitting there.
Sorry, continue.
I was just gonna say that's why doing mushrooms in a dark space is a really easy, simple way to do it, and it becomes your world. You're sitting in one room, and that becomes your entire universe.
Like those sensory deprivation tanks.
Exactly, yeah. But have you seen that one picture online of your brain normally and your brain on mushrooms, and it shows all of the different connections, and it totally connects the left and right hemispheres of your brain, and it connects it in so many more ways, and that's how you everything is opened and you see more.
Yeah. I'm really happy that you brought that up because one thing that I was really wanting to mention when we discussed that we were going to talk about drugs and stuff is the benefits of mushrooms. People are recently starting to use doctors are usually it's still illegal in many states, but even in states in the Canada and in US that it is illegal, they're letting doctors use them as field tests on people who have disabilities or their arm doesn't work, they can't move their fingers. They can't move their fingers, the brain synapses have died, and there have been studies that have shown that mushrooms can actually regrow dead neurons and brain synapses and start them firing again.
Yeah, well that's kind of the thing, it actually is kind of crazy. It goes along the entire lines of manifesting. You can actually, when you're on a mushroom trip, when you're tripping out, you can actually manifest things because you're not, it's kind of getting to some hippie kind of side of shit, but everything is kind of like a frequency rate.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
when you're on mushrooms, it literally raises your vibrational frequency. That's why they call it a high, because you're on a higher vibration, which you can actually manifest more things into your reality. So if you can manifest those ideas that like, I'm gonna make it so I can actually grow back some of my hearing. If you do that strong enough with enough time on a high enough level, it actually happens. And they're showing many significant growth rates in popularity and actual backings of this happening. And it's like fucking insane.
There's this story. There's this guy, and he's called the Mushroom Guru.
Oh,
and he's done a
dude.
lot of conversations, a lot of podcasts. And he has a story where he used to have a horrible lisp. He couldn't talk. He was the worst at it. And he went out on a hike and he did a ton of mushrooms.
Yeah.
And he was out there in a storm. And
Yeah,
he was
on a tree.
freaking out, and he was in this tree, and he was crazy high on shrooms. And this guy got shot. He got hit by lightning, high as fuck on mushrooms.
On a tree.
And the next day, he could speak again.
He was also the guy who was talking about where he had when he was tripping on mushrooms, and he had a vision of the future where he saw a whole bunch of dead cows on the ground, right?
Yeah,
and then
same guy.
same. And then he went back, and all of a sudden it was from, I forget, I think it was a hurricane that went through or something, and fucking killed all those cows, and it was like months in the future. And through his trip he saw the future, and like that he had to go and save all this shit. I don't know, it was crazy fucking. I think that was actually on
It's
GRE.
really cool.
Well, on the same point of like getting struck by lightning, this guy got struck by lightning, and he had no memory of his past. I don't know, I forget what his name is, but basically when he woke up, he could speak fluent Mandarin. He's never been taught Mandarin, never been taught anything like that, and it's crazy. And scientists have no idea. It's kind of this crazy phenomenon of what's actually happening, and it's kind of a crazy thing that maybe we have like these parts in our brains that aren't yet like unlocked, and you have to like unlock them in certain traumatic or crazy events, or like getting hit by lightning is
Very
kind
traumatic.
of something crazy and like once in a lifetime kind of experience. And
except for the guys that like to get hit by lightning, and they go out and search for it,
stupid people
and they would
goes
hit
up
like
on-
6 to 7 to 8 times.
kind of stupid.
It's
I mean,
crazy.
But yeah, there's lots of stories of people becoming like super geniuses because they got hit by lightning. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's something to be said about our ancestors' DNA, and where these things have all been passed down from generations to generations, and random fucking, I don't know, acts of things can spike and I don't know.
Acts of nature.
There's a theory that I was reading about, and it was super fascinating, and it talked about how mushrooms and psilocybin has contributed, and all drugs, weed especially, and alcohol, because that's a whole thing that I want to get into. Alcohol is a drug.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
a serious
It
drug.
is.
But that psilocybin and these drugs contributed extremely to human evolution. And back when we were in the Sahara, in Africa, and evolving and becoming who we are and growing in intelligence, groups of humans, more like apes at that time, they would do mushrooms, and people that did mushrooms, they would explore and they would try new things, and they would be shocked by them, and they would like experience new things, and that's how they learned. And also they would have a lot more sex because they're super high, and so there was way more people together, and their colonies, let's call them, they would grow and they would learn, and they would discover fire, and they would discover how to build things because the curiosity brought on by mushrooms and these drugs that they were taking.
And I mean, like,
Is that a theory or is that fact?
It is a theory
the Stone
that is
Ape theory,
heavily
right?
Yeah, it's a theory. So it's not like for sure, because there's tons of theories out there how we came to this planet, but it's supported by, there is evidence to it, and it's supported by ideas. Like it's not ideas. It's supported by some facts and the experiences that we have with mushrooms. And I don't know. I like to think it's true. It's a pretty cool idea that people doing these substances, because I feel enlightened when I do mushrooms.
Same. And the thing is, like, if you think about like how our brains have evolved, they've mainly evolved so much in the past 200,000 years. We've been on this planet for however long, much longer than that, but like our brains have evolved from being the size of like that, or however small, tiny, to much bigger. And like you were saying, touching on that subject, that psilocybin and magic mushrooms, anything with it's like certain stripped away versions of DMT contributed to the growth of that, because when you're high as fuck, you see all these geometrical shapes and these different, your curiosity and your ideas and everything starts to really, really move more, and like your brain activity is just heightened. So that idea of that theory is, I like to think of it as probably a really accurate thing, but I mean,
I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know. I don't really. I think it's possible, but also just looking at human nature that isn't on drugs or anything, that also does the exact same effect. Humans by nature are really explorative, and we have like the basically the thought to try something new and to always want better and better and better.
Yeah.
Which is like kind of hilarious because it's our downfall, but also what brought us here.
Yes, it is.
So I think it could be possible, and I think maybe that's why we had so much sex. I could believe that.
Absolutely.
I don't know if that's like I don't think we can blame it, like not blame it, but
put it solely on the
put
mushrooms.
solely on the mushrooms, because humans do that anyways.
Yeah.
And ever like even children, they're not on mushrooms and they like to explore. They like to try new things. And
I thought you were gonna say children like to have sex.
I mean, they're curious motherfuckers. You know, have you ever seen them walking around? They are so okay.
I thought you were gonna say they're so sexy.
No,
I've never seen this thing walking around. Damn.
No, but something that I actually find really curious that you brought up kids is like, when you're a kid, you're always learning, and the world is so interesting. Sure, you might get sad and have a tantrum, but you always forget about it.
Yeah.
And there's no worries, and life is always fun, and it's always exciting and new. And the older that you get, the more you start to realize, you're like, fuck man, I have to do this in the world. Like, I've seen that tree 100 times. That tree doesn't fascinate me anymore. But then when you do drugs, it almost brings you back to that childhood state, which can be a good thing because it reawakens that liveliness in you.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I think it's important not to become fixated on it, because you still want to live life sober and find enjoyment in the life that you have. And if you continue to do drugs every day, you smoke weed every single day, you're going to lose kind of that feeling of
flair.
One, you're gonna lose love for the world in general. Like, I know that when I was smoking weed all the time, I'd wake up groggy, I'd be slow, I'd be unmotivated, I didn't want to do things.
Mm-hmm.
I'd start to get bored. Like, I'd just be bored of life, and that's the scariest thing, is I'd get bored of life unless I was high. And now, if you slow down from that, I know you've been doing the same thing, and you never really got into smoking weed all the time. Life is fun, and getting high, you have those moments again where it's like you smoked weed for the first time and you're howling with laughter and your stomach hurts and you do the dumbest shit and it's super fun. And if you smoke weed every day, you don't have that, and it kind of loses.
It defeats the purpose.
Yeah, it's just why.
Yeah, well, I think that's kind of what happens in general, because like as childhood, as you get older and older, the world starts to become worse and worse because you've been doing it and been living it for a long period of time. I think drugs are kind of like life in that sense, not like completely like life, but like if you do something all the time, it's going to lose some of its value, and it's going to lose some of its like reason to do it. Because if you do, like you said, like if you drink all the time, if you smoke all the time, it's just going to become just kind of like with humanity, you're going to lose interest and you're going to want to find something new. It's always our drive to like be curious and find new and inspiring things. And so like if you do drugs a whole bunch, that becomes your reality, and then your reality becomes like just kind of plain.
Yeah.
And then if you go up from that, let's say you do like shrooms all the time, that's going to become your reality, and then that's going to become plain. And it's just kind of building and building and building.
Yeah.
And then because you're always trying to search for like, I guess not, I don't know, mostly humans trying to search for meaning, trying to search for the new thing, a new thing that excites them, because we all want to be happy and excited about things. And then
meaning of life, right?
Well, it's the pretty scary thing about TikTok, is because every different fucking thing
is
every single thing is different. Every single swipe or whatever is different from the last one, and then it kind of hones itself. The actual like scary code that it writes, the algorithm codes itself towards you and what you like and what you see and how your eyes even react to it. And everything like that.
TikTok is dangerous.
TikTok is so scary because it also just teaches us 6-second satisfaction. And there's no room. The world doesn't live in 6 seconds. And you see younger kids especially, that are honestly from what I see, they're being programmed.
Oh, completely.
Like, I remember I was hanging out with someone and her little brother, he's hanging out, and he's hanging out, and I pull out my phone to text someone, and he goes, I want, give it to me. And there was just no enjoyment. Like, I could never have imagined growing up with having one of these, holding my phone right now, in my hand right away. Just access to that entertainment and non-desire to experience the rest of life.
And like the thing about like with TikTok is the other thing it's kind of teaching us, me anyway, is like it shows me that like I'm getting more and more comfortable with my privacy being taken away.
Yeah.
Because of the algorithm. And that goes for all social media platforms, but TikTok I've noticed especially because of the algorithm. It says
that's crazy.
You like this kind of content, so we're going to show you more of this, which is basically it's tracking everything you're doing.
Oh yeah.
Even though it's on like, oh, you're just it's just a certain like genre of content you're watching. Still, you're being tracked, and your privacy in one respect is being taken away, and that's like, fuck, that's scary. Like it's on a subconscious level.
Yeah, it's so ingrained in our minds, like because our parents like think about it probably a lot more than we do. But I know for sure, like I've kind of come to terms with just accepting it.
Well, we're fucked anyway, so
exactly. Like, because I don't need TikTok, I don't need Instagram, I don't need all those kinds of social media platforms. But at the same time, like, they're gonna track me on my Apple phone anyways, right? I've got an Apple phone. Apple tracks me. Apple outsources a third-party company.
Snapchat my location.
Just exactly like that. Like, they already have all the information about your life, so why not give them the
why bother hiding it when they already have it?
They have everything. Like, how many people do you think actually have read the Apple licensing agreement?
When was the last time anybody has actually ever read one of those boxes that say, do you accept these terms?
I just clicked the box.
I read some of the Snapchat ones.
Dude, it's so long.
Is terrifying.
Yeah, they own
really?
Like, every single picture you take is ours. Every video you take is ours. All the audio captured on it we can use. Like, basically outsourced to anybody they want. And I don't know for sure, but if they needed to do something, like law-wise, something like law enforcement,
they have access to it. It's not yours.
But I'm pretty sure if you have a warrant for this person's arrest or anything, they can use audio files from Snapchat and stuff as
that's terrifying.
I can speak with a first-hand experience. That is absolutely true.
Yeah.
That you can that have 100% power to do that, to go into your Snapchat with a warrant, as long as a judge has said that, and they can access every photo.
Yeah.
I mean,
and use it against you in court.
And use it against you in court. I mean, because none of that stuff is private. You've signed over your rights to that stuff,
exactly.
And you click those. I accept those terms, and you can't download the app and not accept those terms because they own so much of us because socially. Man, if I ever tried to talk to someone and been like, hey, what's your Snapchat? And they say, I don't have Snapchat. And said, what's your Facebook? I don't have Facebook. What's your phone number? I don't have your phone number. Like, there's no way. We can't communicate. Exactly. We couldn't make these plans. You can't live without having these things.
With the Samsung phone.
Yeah, damn those people.
It's basically Snapchat and nothing. No one uses Instagram messaging.
I know. Well, actually, I like to DM people on that. I'm not gonna lie.
Like, it also is kind of scary. Like, where the hell are we headed? Like, what? I don't want a brain chip.
What's coming next? Elon Musk. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
Have you seen the Neuralink?
Get it.
You want to get the Neuralink?
It would be sweet.
Okay. You want to be able to look at a debit machine, dude. Tapping is the most stressful thing. I used to think putting your PIN in. Now tapping. I want to just be able to look at the debit machine and it take money out of my bank account.
Well, like, what about okay, let's just say that like 90% of the population in BC got the brain chip.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then there was a cyber attack on the entire grid. That could literally get to the point. These brain chips have the power to literally manipulate your nerves, like how you feel and how you think. Like they can fire different things at different neurons. Yeah. What about if there's a cyber attack from a random country that just shuts the whole thing down, makes everybody depressed, and then the entire... just as not.
It would be like that movie where everybody has become completely inert and they lay in beds. I can't remember what it's called.
Wall-E.
No, it's not. That is a great movie, but it's not that. They have robots. They go out and they do their groceries, and they're basically the people lie in bed with VR headsets, and they live the life through the robot, and they experience everything they do, and they feel everything they do.
Like the Roy game in Rick and Morty.
Yeah, exactly like that. And but they are robots and they can get shut down. And obviously, in the movie, there's like, because they're superhuman. Like they can do incredible things. But yeah, if there was a cyber attack, those people would be screwed because Elon Musk's ideas and the levels of technology that he's proposing and moving towards, the technology hasn't advanced to that level. It just hasn't. The ideas that he has, he's miles ahead of us.
Oh yeah.
He's a smart guy.
He is a smart. He actually has a medical condition like Einstein did, and other highly intelligent people who it's the most simple thing ever. I need to sleep 8 hours a day to feel functional. He needs to sleep 6 to 5, and he feels the exact same amount of rest as we do.
Nice.
It's incredible. So he's able to function. He can go to work for 18-hour days, and he loves it, and he doesn't want to do anything else. And that's why I've said never bet against Tesla.
Actually, something I actually just recently going to contradict you a little bit, because I actually just saw an interview with him, and he said nobody should do this. Nobody should be how I am. It's terrible, and I'm miserable. And like he was saying that nobody should actually do this. He's doing this just because he wants to see something through, but he's not happy. And like he was just talking about how he thinks that it's a terrible way to live and a terrible way of life, and just no one should do this.
It's lonely at the top. I mean, I don't know, you said earlier that the main point of life is the pursuit of happiness, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would highly doubt money doesn't actually make you happy. No. And I would highly doubt that Elon Musk is actually happy, because if you're sitting around, like if I walk into a room and there's a bunch of people who I think are really dumb and I just can't handle their conversations, I'd walk out. Elon Musk comes and has a conversation with us. He thinks that he's talking to a bunch of fucking chimpanzees, right? Like it's boring for him. He talks to people and he's like, dude, you're an idiot. I just can't.
I've thought that thought when I was 5. It's like,
yeah, right?
I'm a super genius. Mega mind.
It's crazy.
Crazy. Yeah, but I don't know. I think he was more talking not necessarily about him, but talking about his way of life of go, never stop.
Oh, really? Okay, so you mean like the working level of just going.
What you were saying about the 18-hour days, the 10-hour days. He said nobody should do that. It's not a way to live. It's terrible. Like
that's why I quit my old job. I hated working 11-hour days.
I mean,
hated it.
Basically, it's the trade-off. It's basically your time is money, essentially.
Yep. And
you can either use that time towards making a whole bunch of money or being happy.
Yeah.
Or doing the things you like to do. That's kind of how I see it. It's like one is you're working or you're going to school or something, not necessarily something that makes you really happy, and then you do other things that make you happy on your off time. And those and like the more work you do, the less time you actually have in your life to be eventually happy. And then the more happy time you do or whatever, the less likely. Like it kind of, I don't know how to really describe it, but you up one, but it takes away from
the other.
So you have to kind of find like a balance.
Unless you can find stuff that you truly love to do and get paid for it. Yeah. Which is, it's such a cliche thing. Oh, mom, like, what am I going to go to university for? I don't know what to do. Do what makes you happy. Mm-hmm. Well, that's really hard to do. Yeah. And it's really hard to know what makes you happy, because you can tell, like, you know what I like to do? I like to go out and hang out with my friends and drink. Well, fuck, guess what?
I like to
can't make money doing that.
I like to go hook up with girls, party hard,
right,
get wasted, and come back and watch Family Guy or some other stupid show.
And get paid for that.
I want to get paid for that.
Not anymore, though. You're wiped up. You can't do that. But, you know.
It'd be sick to get paid for skiing.
It would be sick. Because that's where those things go. I like to be active with my body. Mm-hmm. So things that I've been looking at is diving, ski patrol. If I could be a mountain hike guide in Hawaii.
Oh, that would be...
Those like, I'm not going to make millions of dollars, but I'll be stoked every minute of the day, and I'll go home and I'll have a bed and a shower and a place to sleep, and I'll be able to support a family.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
as long as I'm happy doing it, like, that seems like the ultimate goal.
I was kind of like thinking, it's kind of like, I heard a lot of people saying like, oh, if you're a musician and you want to make a career out of it, you should work on a cruise ship. And that's a really bad place right now.
Right now it's a terrible idea.
But
fucking COVID.
In the near future, like, I get like a free place to stay. I get to travel the world. I get to play music. I get amazing food.
That's true.
I get all of these incredible things. I get to meet hundreds of people potentially, over the however long I do it, and I get to play music and do all that stuff.
Sounds like a pretty swell deal.
Yeah, and I get paid for it all the while.
Living on the ocean does suck. Mm-hmm. That is true, but you're not going to be there all the time. I would say there are so many jokes. There's so many comedian skits about the best way to deal with overpopulation is just to kill everybody that goes on cruise ships. It's like, man, I don't know. I don't really particularly like cruise ships, but the fact that you said that's a way I've never looked at it before.
Yeah.
As a music way, for you to play music,
So
I
nice.
changed my mind. Kill everybody who goes on a cruise ships except for the people who are playing music and performing to entertain there, and then everybody else can die.
I don't know, dude. The idea of a cruise ship is so fucking nice.
I mean,
I don't know why.
But do they stop? Can I swim in the ocean?
Yeah.
Do they
That's
stop?
the
Do they
port you
warn?
go to. Like, you go to a port and then you
Yeah.
get off the cruise ship and you swim. But you
And
can't
you-
swim off the cruise ship if it's going.
Well, no,
No.
but maybe they like set anchor over like a barrier reef or something, and
They
you
just
can
go.
dive off.
They go all
That
day.
doesn't sound fun to me. If I
Dude,
want
I've
to swim
been
in
on
a
a few cruise
pool,
oh
ships.
yeah.
And they're nice.
just go to a tropical island instead. and
Well, that's
stay
the
in a
thing. You
hotel.
take a cruise ship to the
Dude,
tropical
the thing
island.
is, it's like the
Okay.
pre-game to the drinking night.
Oh yeah, pre-gaming is
It gets
sometimes the
you-
best part of the night.
It gets you with it's like
yeah.
the foreplay. You know, it's the foreplay. You can't really do it.
Yeah,
I've been on
That's
a
not
few
true.
ships.
That's not true. You can
No?
you can go to a no. It can't be the
Wait,
foreplay.
Wait, what
That's
are we
not the
talking
foreplay.
about
That
here?
doesn't work. That doesn't work because you can totally go to a tropical island and go to a resort without catching a cruise ship.
And you'll still have a fun time, but maybe it's not as enjoyable as the cruise ship.
Well, I wouldn't know, but
Yeah. But I've been on a few cruise ships in my life, and they're so nice. I don't know, like swimming on the water when
How
you're not in
ironic.
the ocean is so hilarious and so good and so cool.
you
And-
like the idea of pool, ocean.
Yeah.
Like you want to you're like the
It's
salt water
you're in the
beneath
ocean,
me,
but you're not.
chlorine above me.
It's
But
like
you
the
hate
same
the pool.
phenomenon. I love the pool, but I hate having to be in the pool. That's it.
That doesn't make any sense, man.
No. 'Cause I did swimming for a really long time, and it kind of ruined having to swim. But chilling in the hot tub or chilling in the pool, wanting to,
Okay.
it's like if you're made to do something, you don't really want to do it.
Yeah.
But I mean, I love swimming for
Yeah.
10 years.
It can be fun. The thing I like that you actually brought this up because I want to swing this back around a little bit. Swimming is really, really hard.
Yeah.
And yet it's one of those things that you can do, and even though you've already experienced it once, it can be really fun because you can improve on it, and it's difficult to do. That's why the difference is between drugs and that is that drugs, it's really, really easy to do drugs, and you don't have
Yeah.
to work hard to do
Yeah,
it.
it doesn't
Yeah.
become a challenge.
It doesn't become a challenge. It's so easy.
Yeah.
Whereas something that can, like a passion, finding a new thing, you don't always have to find the next drug because you can work really hard to be perfect at swimming. You can work really hard to be, even gaming. People spend so much time gaming and they'll play the same game over and over
Yeah.
again because it's fun.
Yeah.
Drugs, it's only the amount of quantity that you can do to push that
Yeah.
experience to the
Mhm.
next
I think
level.
the big difference there is because the amount of work you put into something will equal how much enjoyment and happiness you actually get out of it.
gratification you get from
Yeah,
it.
it's like if you don't work for something, it loses its value.
Mhm.
You get handed everything in your life, you're not going to
It's
be a
boring.
very grateful kid. Yeah, exactly. But to the person who has nothing and gets very little, it's going
Yeah.
to mean a lot more. That's why people in Africa are way happier than here.
Hard times makes good people.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. I found so many people who are just they've had everything in life and it's just been handed to them, and honestly
why
I hate
everyone
sitting
hates
in a room with
millennials.
them. I hate
Oh my God, yeah.
millennials. Alright, we're called a Gen Z perspective. We just shit on the generation above us.
Oh, yeah,
because
here's
they
the
made
intro,
life
by
really
the
hard
way.
for us.
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, there's so many people that I know that are just completely way too rich. They have everything set out for them. They're going to be great. And then most of them are just miserable.
That is true.
Because they have nothing to do. Because, I mean,
we have a friend like that, or had a friend like that. She moved off island, but
yeah.
like, she was sad a lot of the time, and people would ask her like, "Why are you sad? You have money," and they just don't understand that doesn't actually get you what you want. We can bleep it out.
Oh, yeah.
You're right, but
Oh, yeah.
like it's a lot of life is about the journey, and it's about living in the moment, and that's
Mhm.
why I decided
Yeah,
to leave
completely.
my old job is
Mhm.
because I wasn't enjoying living it.
Mhm.
Like, the destination is great, it's really nice to make it to the top of the mountain and sit there and look at that view, but if I was just on the mountain all the time and I never had to hike up there, it wouldn't feel as great.
It would be like if you took a helicopter to the top, it would totally defeat the purpose.
Except
Yeah.
for taking a helicopter is really cool.
That's true.
Although-
Well, this ties into, like, just basically ties directly into drugs as well. It's the journey up to it
Yeah.
that makes it really good. And if you just are there all the time or are already there, like,
Yeah.
somebody who, I don't know, I have no idea if this is an actual, like, condition, but I know there's a condition where you're always having an orgasm, right?
Yeah.
yeah, I heard about
Ruins
this.
orgasms.
It does.
If you're always having something or always doing something, it ruins it. Which is
Absolutely.
kind of really
That's-
sad because if you think about it in other things, like your favorite thing in the world will eventually be not very fun anymore.
It's true.
That sounds really, really
I
depressing.
hate taco
right now,
salad now. I had it so many times.
oh, it's so good.
It's so
I had
good,
taco
but-
salad today, actually.
Pretty good.
Oh, you're gonna
But like
gas
right
later.
now, I'm really loving like gaming, and it's really
Mhm.
fun. And I just got like a new computer and a new monitor, a whole
Yeah,
bunch
you're
of
in
new
that
stuff.
phase.
And it's like it's really fun, but I only have 2 games, and I'm limiting myself to 2 games right now. And I'm gonna do that for 1 or 2 months, 1 month a game or whatever like that, and then I'll buy a new one. Just
You
so I
can
can
switch the
kind of
games, you know.
slowly ease myself into not have 10 games and get distracted by each one doing the TikTok thing, but having right now I can play Balloon Tower Defense, Titanfall, or Warzone.
Yeah, and also you want to get good at the game you play because
Exactly.
it's the progression of like working hard to play
Yeah,
that game.
exactly.
I mean, like for me, I've stuck to like 3 games for like a year.
Yeah, that's
right.
awesome.
And you're really good at them.
Well, yeah, because I've only played those. But the thing is that I'm going back to games. I'm like, this is not fun anymore.
I
Yeah.
don't enjoy
It
it.
also could be that I'm kind of getting out of the phase.
Yeah, it's actually a lot
Right.
of that with translates to music a lot. I think that's a
Yeah.
really easy way of looking at it. You listen to one song, you're like, damn, I really like this
Mhm.
song.
Yeah, but I've listened to Wet Dreams so many times. I don't know.
Mm.
I was
You
tired
just can't
of
hear
it.
it
Yeah.
anymore.
Same with Colt 45. I hate
Colt
that song.
45.
I still love that song.
266.
Oh my
Maybe
gosh,
that's
it's,
all we
it's
need.
So, I listened to it so much grade 9, 10, 11, 12. I don't know why people like aren't sick of it yet.
I think it's because for me, I hear it maybe once a month. I never listen to it myself, and every once in a while you'll see some friends, and it's a song that's 4.5 minutes long, and for some reason you can sing every single lyric, and it's fun
Yeah.
when everybody's sitting
Exactly.
there being like,
It's the memories it brings.
yeah,
Right.
exactly, it's fun.
I guess it doesn't have many memories attached to it. All I
Well,
think
for
about is the
me,
lyrics, and it's
yeah.
like, oof.
I was just thinking about
Jeez.
smoking weed with Amy and those people listening to that song, like
Oh,
way
I guess,
back
like
in grade
Amelia.
9.
I get flashbacks to Amelia when we were dating Gabby.
Oh God.
Yeah,
I really like looking back on people that and what like thinking about who they were when we were younger,
Mhm.
and then seeing how they've grown in older people, like as time has gone
people.
by. Because we all live on this small island, we still
Yeah.
see all these people, and some of them I don't hang out with. But just a couple of days ago, I saw like Emma and Amy were hanging out again,
Oh,
and
really?
they went through a
Okay.
whole phase where they just like never talked to each other.
That's
And it's
really cool,
cool
yeah.
to see that friendships. There's a reason that you meet people. There's a reason that the 3 of us have been hanging out for how long has it been? 3.5 years. When did you move to Canada?
3.5 years ago.
Wow, really?
No, it was longer than that. I met you at the end of grade 8.
Man, I think you've
Oh,
missed
because I was
Well,
here. I
you
was
were-
here 6 months earlier before. I
Oh,
moved.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
And then I went back, and
And
then
I met Selena.
We knew Selena before
yeah,
you actually.
because she moved the 6 months before I did.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
I finished middle school back where I in interior, and then
Mhm.
Totally.
she hated this school and the people there, so she moved here to a worse middle school, but still.
Our middle school's great.
The middle school here has
Hilarious.
transitioned from what I understand.
Really?
No, it's the exact same.
It's not. I don't think it's the same.
You just don't
man.
remember it.
I remember it. I was sober for all of it. I definitely remember it. No, I don't know. I understand that some stories are similar, but I think there is a huge influx of drugs in the middle school. I remember when we went to the school, it was the biggest deal in the world when the soccer team showed up to the spring fling in our grade 8 year and they'd smoked a joint. And it was a huge deal and everybody was talking about it. Now, from what I understand from like Keshwell's little brother Levi, who's in grade 7 now, he says that it's really common for everybody to be dealing drugs. Like they smoke weed, they sell 50 Nick vape juice, we say this every year. Every year that you say in grade 12, you say that the year before year was way better. Every year people say that, and I have a feeling like it's not entirely true. Like obviously it changes, but I do notice on this island especially that there's a downhill slide to the way that society's going, and I don't think it's actually just happening here on Salt Spring.
No, it's going pretty widespread with that, because I agree with that.
Yeah.
Like
social media has a huge impact.
it's having
on
a
that.
really negative impact on society. Like people are losing the actual social aspect of life.
Well, it's hard now because a lot of your interactions with people is only on social media.
Mhm.
But I think it affects a lot people, especially just a little younger than us, a lot harder because they haven't actually had that time to grow up and feel self-confident. Like in high school, I got anxiety. I was nervous. I wouldn't say those are emotions that you feel. Like it happens. You get tired. You see someone says this. You weren't invited to a party. Someone says something negative about you on your social media. And I just can't imagine how much that would affect people who are 12, 13. They just hit
Mentally.
puberty. Yeah, all just mentally.
I don't know. I think I've seen lots of people that are younger ages in grade like 10 and stuff, and they're or grade 9 even, and they've grown up a lot from when they were in the middle school. And people kind of grow out.
Yeah.
They grow into the fact of social media and really caring about it, but then almost every single person grows out of it. Like all those
That's true.
white Instagram girls, all the hilarious ones that we know, they don't care anymore that much. They're not posting pictures every day to try and get as many followers and likes as they want, because they don't really care anymore, because they have something like. It's definitely just, I think it comes with maturity as well.
Yeah,
I've also noted with that, like, I don't care how many likes I get on Instagram.
Yeah.
I think it was really helpful for them to delete, or not delete, but make it so that only you could actually see the amount of likes. I really, really like that.
Yeah,
update.
I like that too.
I really like that update. It
hasn't happened on TikTok yet though.
Yeah, but TikTok's weird.
Yeah, that's a different.
TikTok is weird because you can get so many views, and people say that views don't matter. It's only the amount of likes you get.
Really?
I don't know. I just remember that one thing that happened to me while I was working, where like some creepy girls were stalking me, and that was like my only introduction to TikTok. And then
didn't that get like 80,000 views or something?
Yeah, it was crazy, and like I didn't even know it was happening. And then it's just like something that I don't know. And they were like, oh. And then when I would tell someone about it, I was talking to some people about it, and they said, it doesn't matter. It happens to everybody every once in a while. How many likes did you get? And I'm like, honestly, I have no idea. It wasn't my TikTok. I don't know.
I think the reason that is different than Instagram is because people have to search it up on Instagram. With TikTok, it just comes up
to your feed if you post things that go along with what they're looking at.
Like,
for you.
It's just like whatever kind of content you're into, that will show up.
Yeah.
And so if you're posting something that has a whole bunch of hashtags and then has the certain keywords in it when you're talking, or the audio file you choose, or the video type that you're choosing, or even like the lighting effects that you use, that'll come up in your TikTok to match the kind of aesthetic or thing that you like. It even goes so far as to track like eye movement and like what you visually like to see more. Like if you like the color blue more, maybe blue will come up.
Like if you look, it's like, have you seen those videos where they have the thing where it has like a little circle over your eyes? Looking on the screen? Does it actually do that on TikTok?
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Really?
If you have your camera enabled. I don't know if they can actually enable your camera. But
if you make
on
videos.
Instagram,
you make
the exact
videos.
same thing, yeah.
If you make
Instagram,
videos.
they track your eye.
Instagram,
what ads you catch you and stuff.
That happens so much. I was talking to you about buying a dirt bike, and the next time I opened up Instagram, they were fucking selling me dirt bikes.
Yeah. The thing is like, Instagram had a really big update to their policy.
Oh my gosh.
It's scary. They got it to the point where they can actually like legally, like track everything. Like they got it so like no matter what, if you have Instagram opened, like even on the side, they can actually access your camera, microphone without you knowing, access every single research like thing you've researched on the internet. They can access everything into your phone. They made this agreement with Apple, and it's scary. Like it almost got me to the point where I wanted to delete Instagram. But it's like
the thing
it's
is
like memes.
Exactly. Memes. It's kind of too late. It's kind of too late. I feel like that information is better. Although actually, there is something for you that you can use, and I wish that we were on like episode 1000. We had sponsors because that was a great setup.
NordVPN.
Exactly. You hear it every time.
Didn't Joe Rogan do one of those?
Oh
with, like,
gosh,
hundreds of those.
Yeah.
But actually, though, I did.
Raid Shadow Legend.
No. Come on, man. We got millions of listeners. No free advertisements. No, but like, I know that they were advertisements, but I actually think that I used VPN for a little bit. It was really useful. It was really useful. I got to use like Netflix from out of the countries. I could use other country Netflix, like shows that didn't exist.
They made it so they can't do that anymore.
Really? And
with a VPN?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you still can.
No, but if it's like downloaded, if the whatever country you downloaded Netflix in, it will only stick to that. So no matter where your VPN is, it won't switch.
What if you're actually in a different country though? Because when I used to travel to the States, I would always have American Netflix when I went there, and then I'd come back and it was Canadian.
Oh, actually.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's changed, because when I was traveling last year, I had like France Netflix, or I had Italian Netflix, or like Switzerlandish. Swiss. Oh god.
I know you talked about that to Troy and I a little bit, but what was it like being in Italy right as the pandemic hit?
Oh yeah.
Oh well, it was not really right. It was like during the midst of.
But the serious part of the pandemic, because we were still in school.
Yeah.
And you were locked down in Italy.
I wasn't really locked. The thing that was weird was it was kind of a lockdown, but it was a lockdown for everybody that wasn't a tourist, which is really weird, because the people would ask you.
Locals.
Yeah, the people would ask, like the cops and stuff would stop you if you were at any kind of place that they were, and they're like, "Where are you from?" And it's like, "Oh, we're just from Canada." And they're like, "What are you doing?" It's like sightseeing and looking around for like food and stuff. And they're like, okay, cool. But then they'd send other people that weren't tourists back home. At least that's what I heard from. I was staying with one of my friends there, and he wasn't allowed to go out for many hours of the day.
But you could.
Yeah, I could. It was really weird.
Yeah, access for the economy.
It's because the government only cares about the people who actually live in their
country.
Yeah,
it was really weird. And like we just found out that just saying, oh yeah, we're trying to leave the country, was the easiest way to get the cops off like talking to you, or like we're gonna go buy food or something like that. But no, it was definitely a scary time. I've never been in a place so famous and so deserted,
so empty.
Like,
right.
I went to it was so crazy. I went to the Versailles Palace in France. It was packed. And then 2 days later, I went to whatever the massive museum there is with Mona Lisa and stuff. I forget what it's called.
Yeah.
And it was also packed. And then I went to Milan, which is like only a few hour train ride away, and it was deserted. Every famous place, like the Statue of David. We couldn't go in the actual place where the Statue of David was, but outside they had like a statue of the statue, basically.
Like a fake.
Yeah, a fake one, and there was maybe 20 people. And usually it's packed.
Now,
and even in Milan, there was like this really famous building. I forget what it's called, but it's usually packed full of people.
Because if I was in your position, I would have gone to an amusement park or something like that, where the lineups are normally you wait 45 minutes for a 30-second roller coaster ride.
You can't go anywhere.
You weren't actually able to.
I couldn't go see any museums.
Oh, okay.
Not even in Paris. They only let us. Yeah.
You were like half there to that absolute golden time where every local was really smart.
Yeah.
And all the tourists were screwed.
Where you're just like a VIP, you know?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
It would have been so
It was
cool.
like I had the VIP pass, but not actually in.
Not an
I couldn't go in
actual
anywhere. Yeah.
What do you guys think about traveling now? Because I know people we've had the virus for a long enough time where there's been safety nets put up and some people can travel, and there are places you can go as long as, like, you can't go to the US, you can't go to Europe, borders are closed, but you can go to Mexico right now. Would you go to Mexico?
I'd go to New Zealand.
You go to New Zealand? Yeah.
Or Australia.
Well, I go to Iceland, but I'm pretty sure like it's not worth it. It's going to be so expensive because anywhere you go, you have to quarantine for 2 weeks, which is 2 weeks you have to spend in a hotel.
Place to stay or a friend or something.
Or unless you have a friend, which is nice. But also, what friend wants to harbor a guy from Canada for 2 weeks, and then they'd have to quarantine because they also have to quarantine. They stop their life for 2 weeks.
It's just so risky now.
You stop your life for 2 weeks, and even if you're an Airbnb or something like that, which I don't think they're doing much of, or not many people are, or it's kind of not really legal.
They normally just rent those out to.
No, they're legal. They're doing it on Salt Spring.
Are they?
Oh yeah, I was looking.
I heard that you can get in really big trouble if you get any kind of anything.
Well, we went to a hostel.
Yeah, we went to a hostel. It was fine. It was totally fine. And I was on, I was looking at houses today. I was curious. I've just been looking at places to rent and places to stay and stuff. And everywhere, it was really, worse, it's so hard to find houses here, but Airbnbs would come up all the time, and they would be like, yeah, $200 a night, come stay here, and they're really nice.
Gosh, $200 a night?
It's insane.
2 weeks.
Doesn't calculate out. I was trying to see if there's like a place where they rented it per night, and then do the math to see how much that would cost per month.
$2,800.
Way too much money
for the 2 week quarantine somewhere else.
I know,
and also being like in pounds or something crazy. So £200, insane.
That's why I did bring up Mexico, because it's the only place that I would travel to right now. Because one, I love the tropics. I want to scuba dive there. I was thinking about taking UBC if it's still online, going to live in Mexico for a little bit. If the pandemic has gotten to a point where you can't go to your school, but your traveling is more accessible. It's really cheap there. I know you can spend $5,000 to get a place for a month. Now that sounds really expensive, but it's by a beach, hot tub, pool, 4 bedrooms. 4 bedrooms. Now the thing is, it's like a kitchen, multiple bathrooms. 4 bedrooms, that's too much. That's you have 4 people, that's $1,600 a person. But if you have 8 people and everybody's down to share a room, that's $800 for a month in Mexico with a hot tub on the beach. And if you're with your friends, do you care about quarantining? Oh no, I have to lay on a beach and do nothing for 2 weeks.
Good point.
Life is hard. No,
True.
It's right? Like,
but then also, how much are the plane tickets right now?
That's the thing. Plane tickets are dirt cheap.
Because nobody's
plane
taking
tickets
planes.
are dirt cheap.
Actually.
So like, hey, take our plane.
Yeah, it's like when everything happened. Things are normally super expensive. Remember, everything shut down, and you could actually see the sky because no one was driving. fuel companies were paying people who owned warehouses to store their fuel because they just kept on making it. They kept on fracking. They kept drilling, and no one was going anywhere.
Yeah.
No one was
That's
going
why oil
anywhere.
prices dropped so much, right?
Yeah.
Is because it dropped like below $1.
They had so much. They had so much.
Well, that's happened with crops. Everything happened. Like, what was it? Like $100 billion or something worldwide got lost in crops, or even no, not $100 billion.
Yeah, a lot
Like
of stuff.
so
got thrown out.
many. I don't know how many the exact numbers, but it was some weird crazy number of milk was dumped out.
Yeah,
I was like, yo, where the fuck was I? I'm still paying for groceries. Like,
I'll take
No,
some
you're
fruit
not.
milk.
Your parents are paying for groceries.
all of our parents are paying for
I know.
groceries. Yeah, here.
Life is easy. Life is so easy. I think
I'm
we're-
scared to grow up to the next level because
I
after
know.
this, it's like no childhood left at all.
No
It's
childhood left at all. But every day you get older, there's a little more freedom. There's a little more freedom, and there's a little bit more possibility.
How much freedom do we actually have though in the world?
A lot.
A lot,
Here,
but also
where we
not.
where we are, a lot of freedom.
Compared
but
to other
freedom is
places.
just compared to other places. So, what can you do?
I think you can only compare freedom to the people you know, or at least to the things that you value in freedom. Like, you can't really compare our freedom to like Chinese freedom of speech or something like that, because it's a completely different place.
Well,
It's not our place though.
Perspective is important because someone in Canada, or someone in China who's never left China, but in relative terms for China has freedom, like say he's financially successful and is okay, he would consider himself super free, but if we had to listen to the things that he had to abide by, we would say he's not, even if we don't even own our own place to stay, right? Even if we're recording a podcast in my mom's basement, like
Yeah,
like
you might think, well, going against the government, that's terrible. That would knock your credit score. Basically, is what happens.
oh, yeah.
Or disagreeing with the law or something like that. Basically, you have a score.
Did you
Everybody, like, it's tracked. Everything is tracked. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's North Korea too,
did
right?
you, yeah, it is.
China is like basically the future of Canada as well. You can look at China to basically see what our world is going to look like in a few years.
Like it's like
It's good. Everything.
you think it's the most advanced forward thinking? It's
Not
not
necessarily
forward thinking,
but it is the most advanced.
Japan is the most like space. You look at movies in the future, it's the most futuristic for sure.
I don't know. I don't know, man. Because in China they have everything mapped out.
But it's so regulated.
There's even
and
stores.
controlled.
Well, I know, but that's what it's going to be. I'm like, you don't have any control over what data your companies get, right? No data over what you
Download
no.
NordVPN.
You have no like control over anything technology wise.
No, actually,
And in China, basically, you go into a store, you take a food item, you walk out.
Yeah.
Track it. There's no people there. It's all automated. Every single movement you do, face recognition, everything. Every single street is like washed.
How
all
long
the
has
time.
China been a communist regime? Has it been that way since like World War II,
I think so.
or is it even older than that? Like when did that
It was
come in place?
Oh, I think it was like commonplace, kind of like the king queen maybe for a while.
Really?
Like had that kind of thing for a while, and then it. I know that's for sure how Japan was, and then it got into more of a
That was World War. Yeah, that was World War One.
in like World War One and Two, and I think it was around the same time. Because I know whenever Mao got into power, it became really communist, and that was like 1960s, 70s. I'm pretty sure. So I think maybe around then, because I don't really know what it was before. I'm pretty sure it was kind of like more samurai-ish. No, I don't know.
No, I think that might be.
But like
might be a
more
little
like kind of like the king and queen and like that kind of.
The things you watch in movies, we got
olden
ninjas
days,
and stuff like that. Yeah,
Right.
I think it's kind of interesting to look at. I kind of found this fascinating that the Cold War, the States spent so much time fighting against Russia, and the whole war, it was a war of proxies, and it was all about who, communist or what democracy.
Communism.
Yeah, communism versus democracy.
Yeah,
or capitalism.
What's capitalism?
Yeah.
What's better? What's the thing? And like, what can win out? And we spend so much time fighting Russia, and then nowadays the states sign little pieces of paper that say IOU to China, which is a communist country. So did they really win?
No.
Did they really win?
Well, no one really won the Cold War. It just kind of stopped.
Yeah, it was kind of like a
Yeah, because
stalemate.
It was just kind of like, hey, we're gonna sign this mutual agreement that we're not gonna bomb each other. Because that was the other big part, was because of the nuclear weapons and stuff.
Everybody's freaked out.
But that ends this year.
This year?
Yeah.
Everybody
Yeah.
thought 2020 was the worst year.
Oh god.
We had World War III start at the beginning of
Yeah.
last year,
Oh
remember that?
my gosh.
Oh, yeah.
Almost. Yeah. I think it was between Taiwan and China, right?
No. The States bombed.
The States and Iran.
Oh, really? I thought it was also between China and Taiwan and U.S.
That was something going on with Taiwan. Like, China wants Taiwan.
Yeah, but Taiwan's like its separate its own country with a different.
China take over Hong Kong. No one talks about that, and it
Yeah,
just happened.
that's
There were
true.
protesters on the street and everything, and within a month, it was just done. It was over.
The thing is that I don't know. That whole thing is like, okay, so that happened, right? And people really starting to speak out about it, kind of going on the conspiracy level thing. But then COVID happened.
Oh shit! So you're on the train.
I'm just saying.
I don't know.
I'm just saying. Just throwing it out there.
COVID too. It happened like a few months ago.
But as a distraction.
It's a pretty good way to say, hey, you people have to stay inside and not protest.
Exactly.
That makes sense.
But it did not work in the States.
And it didn't work for very long in China. Maybe worked for like 3 or 4 months, and then they got it under control, and then everybody was.
So it did work in China then, because that's the thing about people who are in officials who are in charge, people who are in charge actually having legitimate control over its citizens, is that when they enforce something and they really enforce it and make it happen, the planned results actually work.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate because you have to, it's the same thing of balancing work and balancing life to become happy. At what point are you going to abide by the rules if you can't see anyone versus live your life, right? So that's the problem, because we think that we're free-willed and we can do anything, but in China it's, no, you do this. And if you don't do this, you're gone.
Yeah, it's like everything in moderation.
Yeah.
The Elon Musk of China, I don't know if you've seen this guy, he was outspeaking the government. Billionaire. Missing
for a few days.
Gone. No one's found him. Yeah. He's completely missing now.
I mean, there's also something to be said about like people who would start to speak out against the system, and then where do they go? They're gone. Like, for example, X, he's gone. He died. He started to speak out about a whole bunch of shit.
But do you really think that was a hit on X? Because his music had become globally famous, like right before he died.
Which gave him the recognition of...
Everybody was listening to it. I couldn't walk through the halls without listening to sad and changes from every single person.
But, like, did you hear his podcast with that one dude where he was talking about all these conspiracy theories with the dollar bill and everything that goes back to the Illuminati and exposing a whole bunch of shit, and that it's coming out now and more people are starting to realize what he was saying was actually more true than not?
So you're saying it's convenient that he was put out when he was getting a voice, and then it was silenced. The thing is that it's kind of weird to talk about, because we don't want to think that the people that we put in power do those things, but they're absolutely capable if they so wanted to, and they would not have anything. There would be no repercussions on their part. They could totally do that.
It's pretty crazy.
It is pretty crazy. I always find it really interesting how we elect these people to be our leaders, and then for some reason the story is always people versus, like, it's us against the system, it's us against the politicians, it's us against the leaders, and for some reason that's how it always goes. So why are we putting the people that we want, like, why are the people who run our country considered the enemy from within? Because
the system is corrupt in the very base of it, and we don't have too much to change. We can't we can't just like go out of our way and say, okay, well, even though I don't support, like, let's just say someone doesn't support the capitalist mentality, they can't say, well, like, okay, well then I just won't put my part in for it. What difference will that make?
Not much.
That's true.
Exactly.
You
have to go from the ground up to restart that, and right now people in power are not going to do that. They're not going to just say, okay.
It's never going to happen, because to do that you need anarchy, and then with anarchy, basically whoever has the most of something, like muscle, guns, is going to be the new power.
Yeah.
And then it becomes just authoritarian.
Well, that's why
that's what happens with anarchy almost without fail, is because if you have no government system, no regulations, and no law, somebody who has guns and muscle behind them and who's powerful, who can kill you, is going to be way better than the guy who is hoarding a whole bunch of money.
Who has a stick?
Or like a guy who's hoarding stupid stuff, like, I don't know.
That's why
bottle
the
caps.
Yeah.
That's why the U.S. versus China is such an interesting dynamic, because it fundamentally is a perfect example of what you just said. The U.S. is the most broke nation in the entire world. It's a third world country for the amount of money that it actually has. China owns them billions by like billions and probably
They're
trillions
in,
of
they're
dollars,
in debt.
but they're in so much debt. Every person in the States is in debt. Everybody's net value is basically zero. Like the way
it's in the negatives.
I'm going to disagree with you, because that's not how world capital works. China's never going to ask for that to be paid back.
No, because the U.S. is the people that have the guns and the muscle.
It's never going to happen.
I know.
That's why, like the.
But I was just saying, it's a perfect example of what you just said.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I think like, America is a really weird country because it's the basically central bank with everything, like central currency. It's basically everything that we talk about. Everything that it is America. Basically, the world.
Everybody
America.
looks at American politics. What do you always say? America sneezes, the whole world coughs.
Exactly. Yeah. The whole America sneezes, and the whole world gets sick.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
It basically is the epicenter for everything, like the American life. The dreamland.
Basically, anything they touch turns to shit.
It is kind of sad though. Like, you really think about it. I was talking to a friend, and he said that his game plan for his life is that he wants to build up his credit enough that he can get a car, and then he wants to pay off the credit for that, and then he wants to be able to take another loan out from the bank to buy a house, and he wants to be able to get enough credit for that. And his game plan, and I laughed at it, and he said that his game plan, when he explained it to me, is like, basically you want to go in debt over and over again to get materialistic things and support a family and live your life. And I thought it was the dumbest thing I'd ever heard. And then I was talking about it to my dad, and it turns out that is the reality for how you actually become rich in the way that our system works.
You have to go in debt and get good credit, and then you're fine.
Yeah, but it's really dumb. It's really dumb. The value, you don't go 0 to 10, you go 0 to -10. Like, just to use like really simple numbers. You go -10, 0, -10, 0. You don't go 0, 10, 20, 30, 10, 20, 30, 40, 10.
Take a step back before you can go forward.
Yeah.
They take step backward. They never take a step forward. They're just always moving backwards and making up for lost space and gaining objects in the meantime that are supposed to make you happy and make this world better for you.
Kind of how it works. Like, you can't maintain a really 9 to 5 job in this world that we live in, and without a house. You can't just be doing that on the street. You can't not shower. You can't
well, if you don't have an address to bill your checks to, you're fucked.
Exactly.
That's why when you become homeless, you're in so much trouble. Because it's so hard to get out of that scenario.
Yeah.
It's so hard.
But also, that's just kind of how the way. I have no idea about economics. I don't know much. I don't know too much about how good or bad credit works. But I'm guessing it's along the lines of credit card companies want you to go into debt because they make money off of that.
Yeah.
So they'll give you more money and give you a lower debt rate, or I don't know, lower percentage that you have to pay back, and with a less what's the word?
Interest,
yeah. And then so you're a really good customer, you have really good debt, you're more likely to get loans, you're more likely to get that $50,000 loan you need to put the mortgage on the house, or however much your mortgage is. You're more likely to do that, and then once you have that, you're more likely to kind of I don't know, rent the house out to somebody and start making money off that while you're paying off your mortgage. So it's 1-to-1. Then
it's because you're proven to be able to pay it back.
Yeah, so you're not going to get a loan of $50,000 if you can't prove that you can pay it back, and you're not going to be able to prove. And even if you don't have a steady income, you still need a steady income through the whole thing that you know that you can pay it back in 5 years, 10 years. And then set up the market cap, basically the most amount of money you're going to get taxed, or not taxed, but interest. And it just goes from there. Basically levels to how much money you make.
It also, you're super incentivized to get credit cards nowadays, just to download social media apps, because they, you get points. You can get free plane tickets because you use a credit card. You can't buy things online without a credit card. They don't want real money. Nobody wants real money anymore.
Numbers.
They just want numbers, and that's why I really like. I talked to you a little about this. I really like Bitcoin. I really like the idea of Bitcoin because it decentralizes the US dollar. It's going to make it so that the world doesn't just look at this one country of a bunch of fat people eating. I'm sorry. But
hot take.
I don't know. I see there's a lot of really lazy people that have it easy and are able to get to that stage where they can gorge themselves because life is easy there. They don't have, there's not a lot, like, they have,
Yeah.
Life is easy, but it's also hard there because it's
it's a rat race. It can be a rat race.
And I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. Not everybody, like the majority of people who've made it, in quotes.
Yeah.
The majority of people who are millionaires and billionaires aren't people who just had it passed on to them. It's people that made really cool inventions and made it themselves.
Yes.
The majority of people who had it from the beginning don't have the drive to make more or do more, so they just are stuck and lose money.
Yeah.
So I think that it's not really fair to say that America is a bunch of fat people who don't try very hard, because the only people that are actually able to sit there and do whatever are the people who put the time in and who deserve that.
I think that
The fat people who don't do anything are their kids.
that's
True. Just kind of how it's the same contrast with like the people who aren't going to be millionaires, the people who have it all.
Yeah, because they have it easy. They don't have to.
Just like Elon Musk's kid. You know, he's probably not going to be a billionaire unless he like inherits all.
He will be. He will be. He has it set for life.
Exactly. So he's not going to have that drive to work hard to make it.
Yeah, he won't have to do it himself.
Yeah, he'll have a hand to.
I think this kind of ties on to what you're saying. Really, really important lesson is that hard work beats talent. If you are willing to work hard, and if you are actually pushing and going, and you see a dream and a goal, and you're willing to take the risks and steps to get to where you want to go, even if you don't even know where the ending is, you don't need to see the finish line. It's like a marathon. It's going to be there eventually. You just keep running and you push yourself.
Yeah.
You will succeed. You might not make it to be a millionaire, but you will be able to afford a house if you were intelligent enough to like just
take the steps to get you there.
Put the effort in, take the steps in, and it doesn't matter if you're not amazing at anything.
Yeah.
Well,
you just have to work hard.
Like the thing is with talent, talent will like start you with something, but you can't just rely on that, because if you put no practice into that talent, it's going to get you nowhere.
From the beginning, don't have the drive to make more or do more, so they just are stuck and lose money.
Yeah.
So I think that it's not really fair to say that America is a bunch of fat people who don't try very hard, because the only people that are actually able to sit there and do whatever are the people who put the time in and who deserve that.
I think that
the fat people who don't do anything are their kids.
That's
just kind of how it's the same contrast with like the people who aren't going to be millionaires, the people who have it all.
Yeah, because they have it easy. They don't have to.
Just like Elon Musk's kid. You know, he's probably not going to be a billionaire unless he like inherits all.
He will be. He will be. He has it set for life.
Exactly. So he's not going to have that drive to work hard to make it.
Yeah, he won't have to do it himself.
Yeah, he'll have a hand to.
I think this kind of ties on to what you're saying. Really, really important lesson is that hard work beats talent. If you are willing to work hard, and if you are actually pushing and going, and you see a dream and a goal, and you're willing to take the risks and steps to get to where you want to go, even if you don't even know where the ending is, you don't need to see the finish line. It's like a marathon. It's going to be there eventually. You just keep running and you push yourself.
Yeah.
You will succeed. You might not make it to be a millionaire, but you will be able to afford a house if you were intelligent enough to like just
take the steps to get you there.
Put the effort in, take the steps in, and it doesn't matter if you're not amazing at anything.
Yeah.
Well,
you just have to work hard.
Like the thing is with talent, talent will like start you with something, but you can't just rely on that, because if you put no practice into that talent, it's going to get you nowhere.
You don't hone your skills, you're not getting anywhere.
Yeah.
It's just the same thing with money.
It's like a snowball effect.
Yeah. I want to shout out to my main man Macklemore, who said the greats weren't great because at birth they could paint, but the greats were great because they paint a lot.
Yeah.
So just kind of they weren't great because they were born great. They were great because they did a lot. They worked hard and they tried.
Someone who I really, really respect and I want to come on and have a guest on our podcast is Carter, because I don't know a single person who works harder than he does.
And he works a lot.
He works so hard.
And he says, he's like, yeah, man, I don't like my living situation. I don't like what's going on. I got a little brother. I got 2 little siblings, right? He's 18. He wants to go to school. He's really smart, and he's just grinding. He's like, I have no bills to pay. Yeah. That's something that we have as a huge advantage right now, is we can make money.
Exactly.
We can experience.
With no expense.
We can try things. And there's no downside to it because we don't have to worry.
Yeah.
I don't have to buy groceries tomorrow.
No, exactly. I bought my computer because I've almost made it back already.
Yeah, there's just money lying. Like, you make money and you don't have to spend it on anything else.
You have time, you have energy, and you have just you have freedom basically.
And that's
Yeah.
like
I think weirdly enough, this stage in our life, I think we're the most free. Because when we get older, we're gonna have more freedoms, but we're gonna have more responsibilities that constrict us to doing
those
9 to 5
freedoms
or something like that. Like when you have to pay for a house or a mortgage, your family, your kids, everything. Kids want to go have a soccer practice. Kids want to do this. Kids want to go to private school. Kids want to do this, and this, and this. And you're trapped in this kind of
bills,
pay bills, work. Never have time for yourself. Never have time for you and your wife or husband or whoever. Like just continuously the perpetual motion. It's it's so Sisyphean. A really weird term.
Sisyphean?
Sisyphean? I don't know.
Sisyphean.
So this guy Sisyphus.
What does that mean?
The consistent, basically, repetition of moving a boulder up a hill.
Oh,
and having it roll back down on you. It's Sisyphus, but it's like a weird.
It's a Greek mythology.
Yeah,
He's a guy who's forever tortured to push a hill up a boulder. Push a hill up a boulder. Push a boulder up a hill.
It's like called Sisyphean.
I thought you were like
Sisyphusian.
I thought you were speaking like how you were speaking on the chairlift. Oh yeah, I didn't know that.
I had a bit of a stroke. I'm not gonna lie. It was hilarious. Yeah, Troy and I went up skiing last weekend. Or no, yeah, last weekend. This weekend. Yeah, we were up there, and it was amazing. Sunny day, bro. The second day was amazing, but we were going up the chairlift, and I just popped a couple mushrooms, and my friend beside me, Nat, he goes, Nico, how much of those have you been taking? And I go, not a lot.
Definitely not at all.
I actually haven't though. I've been on a bit of a sober thing, and it's interesting that we were going to talk about drugs as our first podcast, and I was realizing I just hadn't been doing them as much. But I would say that mushrooms and skiing, for anybody who has taken them before, don't do a lot. It's not worth it to trip on the mountain, but it is worth it to enlighten your mind in different ways. Because I think that mushrooms, at least for me, push me to a level that I can't get when I'm sober. In some extents, when I play ping pong, I love to be high on mushrooms because I'm amazing at it.
I mean, it's kind of like a hyper focus.
Things that require you to do nothing but focus. Some drugs, especially if you're in the right headspace and you love to do it, you're gonna dial in and be amazing. There was this guy that I heard about, and he had a huge gambling addiction with pool. He loved to play pool, and he was phenomenal at it. And what he'd do is he'd go to the bathroom and he'd take heroin. And he's in this bar, and he'd take heroin, and he'd come out and he'd sit there and for 30 minutes with his hands in his lap, just like totally dazed, like having the heroin kick in, and then they'd set out the pool table and he'd never miss because he's so dialed in, and it's physics and it's angles and it's these types of things. And I think that mushrooms and opioids and psychedelic drugs like that can push you to a level where you are hyper focused and can like see lines and patterns, and that's why skiing is amazing on them, and that's why ping pong and pool and even physics. I did my physics final high on shrooms, and I got like a 90% on the final.
I mean, like we talked about earlier, it connects different parts of your brain, which gives you that hyper focus to motivation to whatever you're trying to pursue. Thank you.
Yeah. It's dangerous though if you've never done it. Don't first time you're doing something, be with some good friends, be in a place you're comfortable to do things with. Take it easy. Don't force yourself to do something crazy like that. I think I don't know. When do you think is like a good time to actually start experimenting? Because everybody is at some point. We're all gonna experiment. We're gonna try things.
When you're the legal age too.
But you're never the legal age to do mushrooms. It's a class A drug, right?
Yeah. So
not in Oregon.
I guess
that's true. I actually have this in my notes. Look at Oregon as example for legalizing drugs.
Yeah, we're in Oregon right now, actually, guys. But
I think it's a brilliant idea. I think legalizing drugs is a really good idea.
Well, that's what I know Joe wrote. I mean, not Joe. Wow.
We've been going for an hour and a half. Troy's falling asleep.
Yeah, I'm tired, man. What's his name? Fucking dude going into presidency.
Biden?
Joe Biden. I was thinking Joe Rogan. Joe Biden. I know he's legalizing pot, but I don't know about mushrooms. But
it's legalized in most of America.
It is legalized in North America.
And it is, but he's going to legalize it as a whole.
Federally?
Yeah.
Because I know it's legalized provincially.
Yeah, and he's going to get it so, like, people with previous crimes of having marijuana on them, they're going to, like, not need it. They're going to get out of jail.
That's pretty good.
Basically. But, I think a good time to do that kind of thing and to experiment with that is any time where you need to be in a place mentally where you're not already in distress. You can't be in a place where you're depressed or you're sad, because if you're in those places, you're only going to go deeper into them.
Yeah, makes sense.
Hot take. I actually really, really like to do when I smoke a ton of weed and I get super anxious. I really like it. And people are going to think that I'm crazy. But the reasoning behind this is because some drugs, they like give you crazy confidence. I don't need that. I don't want that.
You got too much of it already.
I'm already way too full of myself to begin with. But when you're super, super high and you feel that anxious thing, for me, the lucky thing is that I've smoked weed enough times now that I know I'm going to be okay. So the fear isn't there. I might have the anxiety and the freak out a little bit, but the fear isn't there. And when I come out of it, I've learned a lot. And it's a really good experience for me. And I actually feel like a better person. I might like feel a little hungover, but if I really process the things that I thought about, the thing that actually made me take that step to get this podcast was like I was freaking out and I was like, fuck, I'm not doing anything right now. What am I doing with my life? Let's just take a step with it. Like, why not? Let's go for it. And I bought everything high. I'd already put it in my cart sober because I bought the stuff stoned.
There is something to be said about going into something and like facing a problem like right face to face. Like, you know, like people say like having a psychedelic bad trip is a horrible thing in the moment, but in the long term it will give you way more benefits than if you had a good trip. Because it will make you face the problems that you see in yourself and they will arise from within because you just go deeper into that. So when you're able to see through that, it takes a lot of time because these things are normally very confusing.
And they're really hard. You won't really get an appreciation for intense trips or uncomfortable experiences
without
on drugs
one good one,
unless you've done them before and you're comfortable taking them, right? And that's why I actually think that like Oregon has done it, I think taking steps to legalize drugs and give more education towards drugs is really important, because a lot of the people that have died and from drugs, like from overdoses, because they're not educated on it. And the stuff that they're getting is really, really shit.
And it's harmful.
It's laced and it's not actually what you're buying. But if the government was selling it to us, they have it in hospitals. And they were actually giving it to us as a substance that was readily available. I don't think the actual increase would happen.
No.
I could get hard drugs right now. I don't actually want to get hard drugs right now.
Yeah, no, it's not something I really enjoy.
Yeah, like it's like I have no desire to do cocaine.
No,
I've been offered cocaine so many times and I don't want to do it. One, don't know where I got it. Don't know where they got it from.
Two, it's cocaine.
Two, it's cocaine. I'll try cocaine at some point. I'm sure I will. I mean, I can't say that I'll never do it, but it's just like, if you don't know that if you like, I think weed is a good example. Weed is a great example. They started to legalize it, and the production quality, I have not heard a story about somebody smoking laced weed in so long since they legalized it. I have not heard a story like that because it's readily available and people can get clean, good stuff now. And people smoke weed just as much now as they did
we all
before.
know that the war on drugs was a complete failure in America.
Yeah. Oh, that was
it
made it worse.
It made it so much worse.
The opioid crisis.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I've never really done any crazy hard drugs. I smoked weed, drank. That's about it. But I do know that, like,
you've done research. You've done a lot of research.
I've done lots of research about the different effects of drugs on you, and I understand why the government has legalized them, but at the same time, it's not always the best idea. It makes sense logically why they legalize them. We don't want people smoking crack. Let's not let them smoke crack. It sounds a lot simpler than it is, but if people want something, they're gonna get it. America, when they did the inhibition period, I forgot what it's called. Inhibition, basically. Prohibition. Yeah.
It's a great example of this.
It basically
made it worse.
It made cartels. It made so many crime lords. It made the stock
Gangs.
of alcohol, so much more. It made millions and millions of dollars for lots of those people who had cellars, like people who bars and stuff when it happened. Oh my God, they were filthy rich. They were just, here's a bottle of alcohol, give me $200. Just people to get drunk, and it's a perfect example about how when things are legalized, people just do them more. We're all like kids, no matter how old we get. We are told not to do something.
Exactly.
We're gonna do it.
It's like when you go to do the dishes and then your mom says, "Do the dishes." Like, I don't want to do it anymore.
I don't know.
When your mom tells you to do something, it's a different story.
Yeah, but like your mentality is kind of like, well, I don't want to do that now. I was gonna do it, but
gonna do it now.
Just because you told me now, I don't want to do it. Like, I don't know. I think humans is kind of a weird innate drive to do it ourselves, and if we're not doing it ourselves, like, we don't have a problem when somebody says to you, "Hey, maybe like." Next time, do it this way. And I'm like, okay, cool. Because some constructive criticism. But then I said, do it this way next time.
I'm not going to be
interested. And it's like, excuse me? Like, fuck you. No, I'm doing it my way. I'm better than you. No. You know?
Yeah,
and it's just kind of like,
the way
we don't like
delivered.
getting told what to do. Basically.
We don't like being told what to do. And prohibition is such a good example for everything. Like, the amount of people that died because of improperly processed homemade alcohol... It's the same exact thing as these drugs that are spliced with flour and sugar and fentanyl and chalk and all these other things. Like, if it was pure and it was readily available, I think the usage of it would go down.
Yeah, well,
I think the usage would go down.
Oh yeah.
And
like in Switzerland.
Yeah.
Where they legalized. Well, they don't. They have prohibition places where they make it so you get these clean drugs, and then it actually gets you off of it.
A really good.
Exactly.
They're
doing that in Vancouver too.
Yeah, I think so. There should be more, but a really good video I watched on YouTube was this video about drugs on Kyrgyzstan, and it was basically it was like they did this experiment with this rat park. When these rats were alone, and they had a choice between a heroin-filled water and normal water, they would always choose the heroin water because it fills the void of not being alone, basically, or having something missing. And then they would always pick the heroin one. And then when there was Rat Park, a place where basically you could do whatever you wanted, you could hang out, they had sex, they did whatever they want. They had like rat heaven. And they always picked the water ones because they didn't need to fill that void anymore.
They didn't need.
And I think that really makes sense with hard drugs and drugs in general. Is usually people who are on them a lot and do them a lot are missing something in their life or trying to find something that they don't have.
They don't need the dopamine, or they need the dopamine.
They need some form of excitement and something to
reward.
Yeah, or make them feel like they have friends or something like that. Like, and it's proven that people are the biggest way to not get involved in drugs and to get addicted. Like, a big problem in America was. Not a big problem, but a big problem for lots of people was the Afghanistan war. I mean, if you're in this jungle and you're just terrified, you're going to want to have something to get that relief. And so lots of those troops and lots of those soldiers had heroin addictions when they were over there. But when they got back to their families, there were like lots of junkies and stuff on the street that weren't really taken back into society. But those people who were got rehabilitated and weren't addicted anymore because they had a place to foster the growth of themselves and to be able to be...
The void was being filled with their family and loved ones versus the drug and a substance.
Yeah.
A thing that it's kind of interesting you brought up the Afghanistan war is because there's videos of guards guarding huge swaths of poppy fields because the military was supplying that to their soldiers. And I mean, there's so many stories about the government doing tests with drugs on the populace. MK Ultra, thing that happened in France. I don't know what it's called, but there's
in France.
Basically what happened was they blamed it on this mold that grew in bread, but it's basically called a mass hallucination. And what we have now learned is that the US government, before MK Ultra, to test the effects of LSD on the citizens.
They put it in the wheat, right?
They put it in the bread and the flour and the wheat, and 250 some odd people in one day all had a mass hallucination, and they were jumping out of windows and tripping balls, and it was crazy. And it's a well documented thing.
A proven thing that they actually put wheat in the wheat?
Yeah.
Well, I do know the first guy who ever found weed was actually found it on a grain plant, so that would make sense.
Yeah, there was a thing
There's a kind
in
of
like the
fungus.
1800s as well.
Yeah, the guy
that
who
happened.
invented, not invented, but found like LSD.
Discovered LSD.
And those
from
kind
poppy
of things.
seeds, opioids, right?
No. It's from some weird fungus or germ that grows.
Oh yeah, no, LSD is different than opioids and
opioids and stuff, or like heroin and those drugs.
Yeah.
Or
But-
like morphine.
yeah.
Would be the pure form. But no, like the
Morphine
psychedelic
is
drugs,
great.
like acid and LSD. This guy found. I'm pretty
They're
sure
the same
acid and LSD are the same thing, right?
They're the same thing,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay. Like acid, the guy who found acid basically, he found it on like a little bit of fungus on some wheat.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I was kind of thinking.
Oh, you're thinking
is that it could have just been a fungus, like a fungal growth, like they said it was.
Yeah, but it was processed. I think that it's been well documented now that
Okay.
this is actually something that they did, because we all know MK Ultra has been completely released as like a legitimate thing where the government took pregnant women, people, and they just gave them LSD for 90 days straight to see the psychological effects they were trying to learn how to
Was
do
it
mind
volunteer
control.
or no?
No,
Oh.
absolutely not.
When was this? Like
Cold
1924?
War. Cold War.
Wow.
Yeah, 70s, 60s.
That makes
Yeah.
sense. It was a dark
And I
time.
mean,
It was a very interesting time.
going back a little bit, there was something, I forget what it was called, but it was a while back. I think it was either in the 16 or the 1800s where they had the like it was super cold. It almost got to like an ice age type of thing, or no, it was a giant volcanic eruption, and there was ash that covered the sun.
It's a complete opposite.
The complete opposite.
But like, anyway, it got to a point where it actually got really cold,
Yeah.
and it knocked out all of the wheat and all of these things, and the ash that grew on the wheat before it was completely knocked out actually made like a psychoactive substance.
Really?
That's what started a whole bunch of people with, and it also, I think it ties into like the Salem witch trials and shit like that.
Wow, that's really interesting.
Where things were tripping out and there's witches like flying for examples.
Because
like,
you
right?
see, that's
you
what
see
they
things
see.
sing,
Oh my God.
and everyone else is just tripping, and they're just like, "Yo, there's people flying on
They're
fucking
witches.
brooms."
We gotta burn them at the stake.
Exactly, and it just like started all of these beliefs that aren't actually.
I can't believe we used to do that. Like, you could.
I mean, we kind of do.
No, I know, not quite. Okay, imagine you go to like
Okay.
Times Square. You go to Times Square and it's published like, "Hey guys, 9 a.m. This guy, I don't know. We don't like him very much. So it's gonna be a stoning, boys. Come
Okay,
out, bring your kids. Let's just
what
stone
about-
this dude."
9 a.m. Some random girl on the internet says, we don't like this guy anymore. He's racist or he's bad.
no.
And then whole life's in flames.
So you're saying social massacre versus
Yeah.
literal
It's kind of like the... It's obviously not the same thing.
It's like a
Yeah.
metaphor of what
But it's
happened.
like it's kind of, it's not obviously it's not the exact same thing.
Yeah.
We're not even close, but it's kind of like the cancel culture kind of thing. Like just basically, hey, you said something 20 years ago, gonna be burned at the stake or burned at the social stake. No more social media for you. You can't talk about anything. Like you're basically exiled from modern day society.
It really bothers me that people who did things that were appropriate to the time, like when who's our prime minister? What's it? Justin Trudeau? When Justin Trudeau did blackface 10 years ago,
Yeah.
Oh,
everybody was up in steam about this. Personally, okay, blackface, why do it? There's no reason to. It's kind of it's offensive. There's no reason to. But at the time, no one said anything because it was okay.
It's
Yeah.
culturally
It was
accepted.
culturally appropriate for the times. Now that that dynamic has changed, if he was to do that again,
Oh my
He
God.
would be
Then-
prime minister.
then
Yeah.
that's a problem.
Yeah.
But honestly, like him doing that before, it's like when a comedian gets roasted for jokes that he made and he gets canceled for that. It doesn't make any sense because when you crack that joke in the thing, or when he showed up at that party, nobody cared. Everybody was laughing, right?
You know what doesn't make sense though? How Donald Trump can say so much racist shit and still remain president compared to if Justin Trudeau said any of that.
Because I think it's
He's getting impeached, so
he's
Yeah,
getting
that's,
but
that is true.
it's kind of like
well, he's not.
he
even
has
getting
special
he lost.
privileges
He
on
just lost.
Twitter. Since he's the president, he actually has a lot more control over Twitter than we think.
Mm.
I was actually doing
Banned
some more
from
research about this, and he can't get banned unless he says something really bad.
But he did get banned. He's still banned. He
Well,
can't.
because he endorsed violence, which is against their like policy.
their policy.
So like even if he says like, because Twitter's pretty not liberal, but like they let
They are
lots
now.
of views on.
Liberal
Like,
is not as in the political side, but the actual word. They are
Yeah.
liberal.
yeah.
They allow free speech.
So they have they allow free speech to the extent that they want it to be, pretty much. So you can pretty much be a part of any demographic unless you're being really not great.
So,
But unless endorsing violence, or basically they go along, I'm pretty sure, pretty well with the American First Amendment, Second Amendment. Is it First Amendment?
I have no idea.
I don't know. We don't. I know that they're everybody's born with free rights. That's the first thing that's
First Amendment. Yeah.
I actually really like that. I think that the founders of people who came over from Europe to the U.S. who gave the line of the pursuit of happiness is that's one of everybody's first rights when they get born is they allowed the pursuit of happiness. It makes a lot of sense, and because that is kind of, at least what I understand, the meaning of life. But it's kind of interesting that how far can you take that? Because Donald Trump has said things on Twitter that he has now been banned. He went too far. Went too far. Yeah. And everybody was up in flame about it because they figured that he's taking away his right of free speech. They're taking away his right of free speech. But just because Twitter is the platform that gives humans the ability to voice their opinions, I think it falls closer in line with a newspaper article where the editor of a newspaper can fire someone who writes for them if they don't agree with the things that are coming out.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think
it's also a private company. They can do whatever they want.
They can do whatever they want, and
they can deny anybody access to it. It's not the same as saying, hey, you're not allowed to take a video and post it wherever.
Yeah.
If the company says you're not allowed to do that, YouTube takes in a video, you can't really do anything about that. They can do whatever they want. But if the government actually says, hey, you're not allowed to talk about this or that, then that's limiting his free speech or something like that. I mean, the government probably should have said something about Trump being an idiot.
Yeah. Well, people did. Everybody did. Everybody was telling him. Yeah. Do you really think that Donald Trump manages his Twitter? You think he gets up in the morning, he's sitting on the toilet, and he pulls out his phone and tweets something? Or is there okay, yeah, duh. You've seen that guy walk? Or maybe he doesn't actually.
I have no idea. Maybe he's a robot.
Who knows?
Ben, you sent me the most hilarious meme when it was just Trump fucking yelling at the guy mowing his lawn saying, "Can I use your Twitter account?" It was the funniest thing I've seen in so long.
I think people get really up in arms about Trump when he doesn't actually have too much power over the actual decisions that are made.
No.
His party, he has to pass everything he does. Every treaty he signs, everything that he does.
Through Parliament, through the Senate.
Yeah, exactly. He has to. It's not just him saying in the ivory tower, pretty much saying, "Oh yeah, I want these people to be hurt today, or I want this to happen. I want this country to be bombed." He doesn't just.
He's not a dictator.
No, it's not what happens. I think people really get it's not the same as in a place where one person holds all the power. It's a democracy where a whole vast number of people have a big say.
And the man in charge or the woman in charge, which unfortunately we haven't had yet, could be vetoed. They don't have absolute control. Mm-hmm. They don't have absolute control.
They're kind of like a puppet.
They are like a puppet. Have you guys ever...
It's basically the megaphone that they blast their ideas through.
Have you guys ever read The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy? I know the movie is fairly popular.
I think so.
Okay. I would super, super recommend it. And there's this really, really funny line. And in it, there's the guy who's the president of the galaxy. And they say, and people say that he's the worst president ever, and some people say that he's really good. And by a certain job description of the president, his job is to draw the attention of the populace towards himself and towards other things than what's really going on. Mm-hmm. And in that regard, Trump is an amazing president.
Holy crap.
And that's what I was laughing at. And I would really recommend reading this book because it's really, really good. Mm-hmm. You can get it on Audible. You can get it on Overdrive. There it is.
You're just trying to get another sponsor.
No. I'm just serious. You can get it for free on Overdrive. The library has it.
By using the code.
On Overdrive, you can... It's an app from our local library, and you can download books. And if you want to, if you're at work, you don't have time to read a book. It's really cool. It's a really good read. It's a really good.
I think I've read some of it. I haven't read too much. I read the first few chapters,
and it's really funny.
But I do know that when I talk to my Amazon Alexa thing and I ask what the meaning of life is, she says 42,
which came from that book. Yeah.
What does 42 represent?
No,
It's just a number.
I don't know, but I take it as
What's 6 times 7?
I can see it as kind of the representation of the futility of a meaning of life. We don't know. We have no idea. Maybe it's a random number. Maybe it's this bubbly can. Maybe it's nothing. We have no idea what it is, and it's kind of up to you to decide.
Right.
That's kind of
okay, honestly, what do you think? I mean, I know it's all about, it's going to be from your viewpoint, but like, what do you think the meaning of life is?
Oh, I have no idea. That's a really hard question to answer because there's just so many different.
I think it's a really easy answer.
I actually agree with you.
Really?
I think it's a super simple answer. It's just to be happy and to live life to the fullest extent.
Goes very much along those lines. It's kind of, well, I think everybody has a certain purpose. That purpose is chosen if they want to be able to know what that purpose is or not. They could be completely oblivious to it through their life until whatever you believe for your afterlife. But personally, it's kind of like, I think everyone that's come to Earth, everyone that comes to Earth is coming there for a certain reason to try to do something. And I think, like, personally, I've found my reason, and I think it is to completely just to live, to have physical experience. Because if you think of things as an astral realm or astral perspective of life, you can't physically go and touch something. You don't have a physical entity to be in an avatar, let's say, right? So it's kind of like, right now, my purpose of living is to live and to be an experienced human and live life for what I have learned to know it as, being completely oblivious to what is in my past or what is in my future. And that is why I'm in this dimension, in this world that I'm living in.